Hey there, everybody. Okay, so last time we got it to where we could just push this button and our visualization renders. And I mentioned that we need to, there's three things that we just kind of have to do at this point, that this is the time to do them. One is to bring in a UI framework to work with. Two is to start working on our interfaces. And in this, and three is to actually start building out the CRUD and business and the logic of all that stuff and start like getting to where the user can actually do more stuff. Um, I mentioned that I thought number three, the first one was the best idea of what to do now because when you bring in a framework, it shows you what's possible and it shows you what your constraints are, things that the sort of ideas that you can implement, so you don't end up building something that isn't really feasible in the framework. And so if you try to retrofit it later, or even worse, something that you think is kind of like how it is in the framework, but it's slightly different, and it's can be absolute nightmare trying to make up for those little deltas. But so without further ado, I'm going to start bringing in Angular material. And the first step of bringing in Angular material is to go to the Angular material website. Um, and I always just do a search on it and go there. And then there's this get started link. And then they tell you basically do this. I think there's other steps too. I think it actually walks you through this. And so, as I've said before, I always like to run these commands inside of from my package.json just so I can be sure that they're built all in the right, in the same uh, platform that the original application was built in. So now we're going to do that, and we're going to say npm run mat, and that will tell me the actual material or the actual command that it's running. And now it asks me to choose these. I have at times chosen other versions of these, and then um, uh, certain widgets or of the components didn't work the way I was expecting them to, or didn't weren't styled right. So I always just choose indigo pink. And now I hit yes for the typography, and then I include and enable animations. Um, I have worked in places where they did not enable animations because for performance reasons, I guess. Um, I've never, I don't quite understand that, but that's cool. All right, so now we are installed. Just for good measure, I always just kill this and restart it. Sometimes you'll actually see a change in the visual, how things look, um, and I can explain that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my package.json and get rid of this. And the reason I'm going to do that this time is because it actually made changes to my package.json, and that's pretty interesting to look at that. Like it removed a non space, an empty space down here, which would fail a lot of linters in organizations. So thanks, bro. And so, anyways, added this and this into our dependencies. Uh, Dependency lock, package lock is just never worth looking at. And then it added this include in for styles in this architect node in our angular.json. It also updated our index file to bring in these guys that are actually third party or cloud based things. So that a lot of time, sometimes if you work in a really highly secure environment, they have a real problem with this, and you have to come up with another solution. And it's usually pretty darn dramatic wherever you work. There's a way to get local versions of this working, and that's what you end up doing usually. And then it adds a class to the body tag for you. It goes into the styles and it adds a few styles for you. And this is where you'll often see the changes because it'll change your margins and your height and all that. But see, if you notice, we already had our margin to the body, so I guess that's sort of redundant now. So we can get rid of that. You know what? Let's leave it just so that the git commit is clean. Um, and then we're going to have our imports that come into our app config.ts. So basically, it's going to bring this provide animations, async, and that. So now we've installed it. In our specific case here, we don't see any changes to how anything works. So the next step is to go into the components. And what we're wanting to do is change a button. And I think I want that to be a primary button. It's pretty easy once you get it set up to figure out. But the first step I always do is I go in and to the API and I just copy this. And this used to be like you would have to do this in a couple places, but now now that we have these standalone components, they can all stand alone. A lot of times people have these imports all rolled up into like a big giant import that brings them all in, like they would call material imports or something like that. But anyway, so we're doing that, and basically, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the idea is I want to change this add mesh to a material button, and then so here we go, and then we go there, and we want a primary, and we want let's see. We want a raised button for the moment. Or no, let's go. Yeah, let's go with a raised button. They're easy. Once you get it in there, it's super easy to switch between. But just copy this code, mat raised button. We'll go to our HTML, and we'll change this to mat raised button, and then I believe I have to do something else in the TypeScript. Let's see, did I import it? I can't remember if I imported it. No, I did not bring that into the imports. So do that. I believe that's all we need to do. Okay, so we did not get our color. I think I probably copied the wrong one. Let's see. We want to go back to the HTML. I think I forgot to do this. Color primary. Let's see. Color. Yep. Primary. So we just add these to the button as attributes. And there we go. Now it's kind of jammed up in here. I don't think we need this anymore. I believe the Angular styling takes care of preventing the style from getting applied to the button. Like it has its own styles. Yep, that worked. And then you don't really, I don't know, it's tough. There are certain things that you can just change without really worrying. And this, like placing it, where you place it is generally in a body is generally safe, you know, anything, but it can be if you move it around inside of tables or inside of forms, you can start running into issues. Let's see, px. There we go. So that looks good, and now like when we click it, it has this little, you can see this little effect of the little wave coming out, and I believe if you were on a mobile device, you would feel the little tactile feedback and stuff like that. So yeah, Angular, that we've added our Angular material. It looks good. Everything seems happy. This would be like I said, if we had decided we were going to create some other component and it was like had a bunch of features and then they didn't really have an equivalent, or they had their equivalent was slightly different implementation, trying to retrofit that in the future could get real tricky. I mean, it's always possible, but like it could take a lot of time, whereas just building it in the component to begin with just is like the actual components themselves just work cleaner. They just feel better when you're doing it's faster. Everything just feels more natural. I hear that a lot from like when I'm working in projects. They'll be like, "Man, your stuff just it all works so cleanly, and it just feels right." And it's usually because I build it in its native way. Anyways, happy coding. Thank you. Bye.